Traveller. See you've come by Firelink too. It's an old place. Older than the very age we're in, I think. Over there, those lifted stones in that deep pit. They say that's where King Seeker Frampt was. He'd meet with the undead that came by to struggle their way through this world, pursuing some prophecy or other. Frampt never had to lie to them, you know. Never had to be explicit about what was or wasn't going to happen. I imagine when some of them got close to the shrine and learned what was going to happen, that they felt betrayed. I imagine there are others who didn't care, merely saw it as another series of accomplishments, another set of possibilities, another target with bloodstains. I wonder about Frampt from time to time. I wonder where they are now, what they think of the age that their action brought about. It happened more than once, you know. I'm sure of it. The thing about Frampt that always struck me was, even to the undead, Frampt was old. Frampt might as well have been a god, but we don't know that of him. Certainly didn't seem to have the power of one. No, Frampt was a story of what knowledge can do in a world full of power. There were people very strong in the world, people eager and violent, people learning new and fascinating ways to put their force on the world. An era where we built war machines and connected a network of fires that would claim land as our own. And from all I can tell, Frampt couldn't do much. But Frampt could listen, and Frampt could learn. And I think that's why Frampt cared so much about the turning of the ages. Because Frampt was old enough to know the first age, and knew that he would become old enough to know the next. Power wasn't the only thing that mattered, of course. There were plenty of powerful people. Power was all over the place back in those days. Some people even thought that power was what drove the gods and their servants to madness. Myself, every time I think about that, I think about the one called Havel the Rock. Havel didn't leave behind a lot of scripture or writings or followers, but he was a faithful servant of Lord Gwyn, a stubborn, hard, terrifyingly strong man. He wielded a weapon that was crafted from a dragon's tooth, you know, an almighty cudgel that they laughingly called a warhammer. No, that was a club. Havel was easily strong enough to be one of the chosen undead. If you've ever seen his shield, it's a monster of steel and fretwork. The sort of thing most people can't even lift. They say that in Anor Londo, one night, someone stumbled into the wrong part of the palace and found Havel's secret rooms. Normally, when you hear of a priest's secret rooms, you expect something far more terrible than this. But no, Havel kept his armor and his weapons near. Weapons that could kill gods. There aren't many of them in the world. They're hard to find. But of course, what do you do if you're a god and you find that one of your most faithful servants is holding a tool that can kill you, a tool they kept in secret? Well, from what I can tell, Havel was banished to the depths of a tower, and there the strong man faced the thing that would ultimately be his end. He was strong, he could not die, but he could eventually give up hope. He might even still be down there, circling around, in full armor and regalia, ready to fight and slay in the name of Lord Gwyn, because what else does he know? That's the thing to look for when you see people with the dark sign. It isn't necessarily the strongest or the fiercest, or even the smartest or the fastest you need to worry about. You need the ones who can hope, and hope in the face of oblivion. What do you mean, what do I think the dark sign is? Does it matter what anyone thinks it is? We all know what it's done, what shape it's taken on the world. Generations of stagnation, the construction of strange, enormous places, the sort of things you could only do when human limits on lifespan and labor are gone. The dark sign. I've heard it said that the dark sign is a disease, a plague, something that catches onto you when you're young, and you never learn about it, not until after you die. Not everyone has the dark sign, but enough people do, and they don't go away. And slowly their population grows, and they lose hope, and they go hollow. It's a very strange thing. Imagine what it must be like to be in that culture. Imagine what it must be like to know that what stands between you and being a monster is finding something that you think matters. And matters enough to fight for it and work on it without it driving you past the point of your own humanity. How many dark sign cursed scholars do you think there are in the Duke's archives who simply took to filing books over and over and over again until there wasn't anything of them left anymore? We have this world of vast projects, of enormous things, structures that you wouldn't be able to make if you just had human labor. This is the world shaped by the dark sign, and we've had, so long to make it. Have you thought about what you'd do? About how you'd hold on? Time's the real enemy, you know. The great abyss that we all stand next to. The thing that we're all terrified of having once not enough of, but now too much of. I imagine it changes you, knowing that you've got centuries to do anything. I've watched them fight. They're all bad. They're all terrible fighters. Every hollow swings with all of their body. Every chosen undead, even the ones that say that they started as bandits or soldiers, they were all amateurish and sloppy, telegraphing attacks from all over the place. So slow and ponderous. I think about it, and I think about the culture we're in. I think about, when did I last see a skilled soldier? When did I last see anyone who didn't rely on the Forsaken or the Hollow to do what they needed done? That's the enemy. The fact that we're letting all of our accomplishments wear and grow old. We didn't need to build kitchens in the undead asylum when we built it. Why would you? So we built a prison that has chambers and a door and locks, and people travel there and throw the undead inside, and then they travel away. There are no wardens. We don't keep track. Now all the people who are left there are themselves hollow. It's terrible. It's like a wound, and we just keep throwing things into it, not caring about the impact it has on us or on the people there. We know that the death of hope is the death of the future, and yet we've constructed an asylum that's meant to drive people to hopeless despair. Almost as if we want those dark-signed to fail. I wonder if I'm afraid of having too much time, more than I'm afraid of not having enough. I wonder if Lord Gwyn giving us a millennia of extra time wasn't somehow a bad thing? That we are so afraid of change that we'll let 1,000 years pass of this cycle. We have books we can't read. We have highways we can't travel. We have doors and gates and barriers and boundaries that are beyond our means to fix or open because we simply do not know the world the way that we think we do. There are some who are afraid of an age without fire because they're not sure what it would mean for humanity. But this is the age of fire. isn't it? One has thrown themselves into the bonfire and extended it all for a century or more. It makes me wonder, is the plan, if there is a plan, but what if it's to make sure that only the humanity that can live forever is what's left? I wonder if humans are the problem. One of the great questions of the last age. It's this age, isn't it? Well, one of the great questions was, with those Lord Souls, what were they doing? What were they trying to do? And I hear people who had all sorts of views on Izalith and ideas about exactly what Seath was trying to accomplish. And they're always left curious by Nito, Grave Lord Nito. What were they doing? Obviously, information about anything so old, in a world of old things, it's going to be hard to come by. The first to die. Not an auspicious title. Gravelord Nito seemed to most to simply sit in a coffin at the bottom of the Tomb of Giants and wait. It was a strange plan, but I think that Gravelord Nito perhaps had the most faith of any of them. Nito offered boons and incentives and prizes for the chosen undead that sought to slay other chosen undead. Time is disjointed, we know that. It flows this way and that, and you see ghosts and shapes and shadows of things that may or may not be. And Nito offered unto others immense power if they were but willing to reach across worlds and into those shadowy spaces and cut the thread of time. Nito was waiting, and Nito was offering prizes to the undead who were capable of finding the chosen undead. Every one of them joining into this gambling gladiatorial arena of lunging through time itself to try and bring a little simplicity to things. And every time I wonder, did they get closer to giving up? Did they lose hope? Was Nito trying to find the one chosen undead who would be able to bear up against odds of even their own fellow undead, thinking, chosen, capable, who would reach into their lives to try and end them? When you live as long as death itself, surely you've got to have a different perspective on these things. It might well be Nito was trying to sculpt the forsaken person, the dead soul that would be capable of bearing up under the weight of how Nito felt all the time.